What's up friends, James here, back with another quick video. It is Tutorial Tuesday, so we're gonna give you a quick tutorial. I've done a lot of paint videos on this channel and people always ask about my prep work, and I've shown a little bit of that, but not a whole lot. And so this is gonna be kind of a video that breaks down the 4 really kind of major steps that I feel you need to have good prep work. And this works for any medium, whether you're using DuraCoat, Cerakote, KG, Moly Resin, Krylon, doesn't matter. And it doesn't really matter what you're spraying it on. If you follow these 4 steps, you should be very successful in getting a good quality, durable coating on your surface. So let's go ahead and break down my 4 steps and kind of one additional little tidbit in there on conducting good prep work for painting. Step number 1. Now step number 1 is gonna seem obvious to some, but it does need to be covered, and that is full disassembly. It doesn't matter what you're painting, you need to disassemble it fully. The paint is being sprayed, so it's kind of traveling through the air. It's gonna find all little nooks and crannies and get into places that you might think you masked off well enough, and you're just not gonna be able to do an effective enough masking to get a professional result. So if you want professional results, you need a full disassembly as complete as you can possibly get it of whatever it is that you are painting. Step number 2 is to strip it. Now, what I mean by stripping is taking the old coating off. If you go to try to sandblast or do anything, to the old coating and it's just not coming off, it probably had really good prep to begin with, and we're not gonna worry about that so much in this step. We'll get to that in the next step. But if it's any sort of questionable coating or questionable coating job per se, then you want to try to strip all that off. There's going to be people out there that say, oh, well, my paint or coating or whatever is the most durable, space age, out of the way from Mars, armor plated, whatever, and it's just not going to come off. And that's not true. Every coating can come off and will come off with the right application of stuff. If it's even somewhat questionable for you and you want to ensure that you get the absolute best prep you can, then you want to try to soak it if you have that option. A good thing to soak with would be acetone, and the ultimate is Citrus Strip. Now these cans of Citrus Strip can be bought at Home Depot. It's a nice rattle can. You can get the paint on stuff, but this is great. Just spray this all over parts, let it sit about 15-20 minutes tops. It'll bubble all the paint up. And I know, you have your coating, it's just not gonna, try it. This stage is also really good for breaking out a lot of greases and oils, because these chemicals and these products will do a pretty good job of cleaning everything, so a lot of the gunk is taken care of before we continue on to the next step. Step number 3 is abrading. What I mean by abrading is giving the surface some texture. You want to get something for the coating to bite to. You've seen probably at some point in your life where something was painted and the paint just flakes off in big chunks, maybe just peels right off. The paint bound to itself, but it didn't bind to the surface downward. So we want to get that paint or whatever product we're spraying to really bind to our surface, and to do that, we need to create some sort of texture for it to grip to. If it's a smooth plane, it's not gonna have anything to bite to, it's gonna come right off. Easiest way to do it, or the cheapest way to do it, if you don't have a lot of tools at your disposal, is Scotch-Brite pads, steel wool, things like that. You just gotta make sure you're really not polishing it and trying to get like a good texture to it. You need to kind of scuff it up. Some sandpaper will work, but again, you want to make sure you're not gouging too deep, but you're creating a nice texture. So the best way to do it is to have a blast cabinet and hit it with some aluminum oxide. I like the 70 to 80 grit aluminum oxide you can buy for fairly cheap at Harbor Freight. You don't want to use glass beads or anything like that. They'll work fine for one blast through, but after a couple times, they start to round off and become more of a polishing agent. So I really encourage you to stick with the aluminum oxide, as it'll create a nice texture. Now the other thing on texture is, as you can see in this ammo can, there is a lot of paint still showing. You don't have to go to bare metal or bare surface of whatever it is that you're painting. You're wanting to create texture. And you can hear that it's got a very nice texture. So yes, you can spend a lot of time and really clean that up if you want to, but it's really about getting a nice texture for the base coat to go on. So if you start hitting it with an abrasion and the paint isn't really coming off a lot, but you're beating it up pretty good, took the shine out, you got a good texture, you have very good roots for that coating to bite to, and you're gonna be okay. You're ready to move on to the next step. Another quick note on abrasion is, if you are using a blast cabinet or something like that and you didn't have to do this stripping phase, you want to make sure that your project is fairly clean before it goes in the blast cabinet, as you don't want to contaminate your media. So you want to do kind of a good cleaning or degreasing at that step, which kind of leads us to the next step. So I'm not going to get too crazy on that, but just know that you don't want to put a dirty or really greasy project into your blast cabinet and contaminate the media. Okay, step number 4, and this is pretty important also for getting your coating coating to bite, and that is degreasing. The project needs to be pretty oil and grease free, because as you can imagine, oils will create a slippery surface and the coating won't really bind to that. So if you have really good texture but you have oils on your project, you kind of are counterproductive. So make sure that the project is very well degreased. There's multitude of ways to do this. The cheap way is to get a good rag and some degreasing solutions and start scrubbing, but there's obviously a lot better ways. If you have access to a tank, you can do, again, the acetone, fill the tank. That is a little expensive because it'll take several gallons to really submerge a project depending on how big your project is, and you might need different types of tanks and stuff to fit different projects in them. So a nice good bath though, a nice good soaking will obviously do the trick most effectively. Another great product is TruStrip from Lauer Weaponry. TruStrip has kind of acetone-like properties, but it doesn't evaporate as quickly. What I like to do with these solutions in my tank is use them for my project, and I have a valve on my tanks. I like to empty them back into 5-gallon buckets when I'm done and then reuse that media for a while until it's kind of changing colors and gunky and no longer good, and then I'll switch it out. But this way I can get some mileage out of it. So those are your best bets, is acetone and TruStrip. Another good option, but not quite as effective, is to use Simple Green in water, and that's a much cheaper route to go because you can get gallons of Simple Green from Home Depot for a fairly cheap price. Mix it with some water, put that in tanks and soak it. Again, if you don't have tanks, maybe a big sink, or you can resort to wiping, but you want to make sure those greases are really out of those areas. Another trick is if your project has rivet holes or anything like that, anything that's pressed together that couldn't be, completely disassembled, taking a heat gun and heating those areas will purge the oils out from under those rivets and some of those press fit components. And so you can wipe those clean, give them a good soak, heat them again, and play that game until it's no longer purging oils out of the metal. So those are some good things on degreasing. One more unofficial step that I kind of mentioned in the intro is parkerizing or phosphate etching. It's to metals that are essentially magnetic, but not stainless. It will not work on stainless. And what it does is it opens up the pores of the metal, so it makes it kind of feel like a chalkboard. And you can imagine what's gonna happen when paint hits that metal. It is going to absorb into there really deep, kind of like a sponge. It's gonna suck it in. That's kind of the unofficial step, and that's when you would do after you have done your abrasive blasting, is you would parkerize the metal and then go on to your coating process. So there you go, that's my 4 steps on how to properly prep surfaces for coatings and paint to give you those professional results and the long-lasting durability that you're seeking. Again, that's to disassemble. We want to strip, abrade, degrease, and if possible, parkerize or phosphate etch those metal surfaces that are magnetic but not stainless. All right, so there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, the tips, tricks, all that good stuff. We're gonna be doing a lot more of that stuff. Tutorial Tuesdays plus other fun videos. So make sure you hit the like button if you did like this video, smash the subscribe button with the little notification thing so you're up on all the latest and greatest, and I'll see you in the next one.